guys, just to hear a cam perspective, and I'm back with another dog attack review video. This one is out of Australia. It's a family of two, as you saw, with their two Yorkies and their toddler in a stroller. They're charged by two very large off-leash pits. They look like bully breed pits. Bully breed pits are a more stockier, bigger version of the pit bull. Maybe 80 to 90-ish pounds from what I could see. And this happens very quickly. They don't have a lot of options to work with, considering they both had a Yorkie, as you saw in the preview clip. In these moments, it requires like very quick thinking. They're both kind of caught off guard, especially the husband, from what I could see. I take most issue with the husband. Again, I don't judge, because I understand, like, you're not thinking you're walking your family going to be charged by an off-leash dog. But I tell all my clients, like, because this is a possibility when walking your dog here in Chicago. You know, you could be in the neighborhood, you could be in a busy street. You know, we have very busy streets here in Chicago, and I've seen people walking their dogs off leash along busy streets. I understand if you're in the suburbs where it's slower. I understand if it's like a rural area, if you're like at a preserve or something like that, or even at like a public park, right? Because you're away from traffic for a little bit. And excuse my voice, my allergies have been bad this past week. But you're away from traffic for the most part, right? Traffic meaning, you know, vehicles, things like that. And then obviously we want to think about people, right? Like just the general public. But in Chicago, like, I see off-leash dogs everywhere. So it's a possibility that this could happen, and it's not an unlikely possibility. So I tell everybody, you know, you want to have at least an idea of what you would do if you're charged by an off-leash dog, if your dog is charged by an off-leash dog, you know, so on and so forth. What's the environment, all those kinds of things. Because it at least gives you an idea of, again, what you're going to do should the situation arise. Okay, we're not caught off guard. Because the one thing about the charging dogs is they will always have the one up on you. They will always have the heads up on you, because they're the instigator. They're initiating the interaction, right? That you're very likely to be caught off guard. That's exactly what happens here. So let's go ahead and see. Let's review the video again.
When two pit bulls charged at them, attacking their pets.
Okay, so we see the dogs approaching at approximately, across the street, it's approximately about 15 feet away, 10 to 15, maybe 20 feet. Okay, definitely about 15. So they clearly see them coming from across the street. You can see the husband's kind of standoffish, like, oh, there's two dogs coming. The wife's like, uh-oh, see two dogs, hand on the stroller, right? And then
bulls charged at them, attacking their pets. The woman tried.
So the mom, actually, as I'm reviewing this, is the one that takes some initiative. Okay.
Bulls
you see her step in right there, right? Very quick. She steps in, which I like, right? Because I talk a lot about when you see the dogs approaching, you want to step in, you want to move into them big, shout, clap, stomp, anything to make yourself seem larger than life, right? So you can see where she had that initial step. Now for her, she's probably thinking, like, these are two really big dogs, which I agree. Like, even, you know, as a human, I'm like, these are two really big dogs. But remember that a lot of the time, they don't want problems, right? They want an easy target. Especially in this case, because these dogs were solo. If these dogs are with their owners, it's a little bit different. Because remember, the owners empower the dogs. The owners give the dogs something to protect. But in this case, these are two completely stray dogs, right? So the issue that I have here is, for the husband, is that he takes no initiative. His initiative doesn't kick in until later, when the dogs start kind of going after his wife because she pulls up the dog, okay, which is another big no-no. The other thing that happens that we see in the earlier clip is they kind of abandon the child, right? So again, this is very quick thinking. They both have a dog. So, and I know it's easier for me to say this stuff because I'm watching outside of the moment. I'm able to review this and rewatch this, right? I do have that advantage. But I have also been charged by off-leash dogs. I've been charged by off-leash dogs even like before, like early on in my career when I just started working with dogs and I didn't have this kind of knowledge, okay? I remember the very first time I was charged by an off-leash dog was actually a Mastiff that escaped from a neighbor's yard. And I was doing a pack walk. I had my 5 dogs with me at the time. And I was really big in Caesar Milan at the time as well. And I remember walking and this big blur, just see this blur at the corner of my right eye. And I'm like, and you know, instinctually, like that's unnatural. And I turn and it's my neighbor's Mastiff just like charging. And I had approximately 30-ish feet to work with. And my instinct at the time, because I was just so big on Caesar and I was learning his methodology with touch and the Caesar hiss and all that stuff, right? As I went, right, and I stopped, and I just saw the dog get caught off guard and then just U-turn because I moved in as well after that stop, and it just projected energy, and that deflected the dog. And I remember when that happened, like that was probably like the turning point for me of like, wow, like that stuff really works. Because I was doing it internally. I was doing it at home with my own dogs. When I would go to volunteer at the Humane Society, right? So I was doing slip leash stuff, but I was doing a little bit of energy and just body language and presence. And I remember using it that time. And I'm like, man, I'm like, that's crazy. And now that I'm 16 years deep into this career, like I have a much more deeper understanding of why this stuff works. Not just like the projecting energy, but also like as the attacking dog. Like, again, they want an easy target. They don't want to fight. And they don't understand size. And I have a post of like a puppy. It's a YouTube short that I did with the puppy resource guarding food from a larger dog. And in the video, I talk about like, you know, dogs don't see size, they see energy, and people are arguing like they absolutely do see size, this and that. I go, no, they see energy, okay? Animals see energy. If you have a very big, confident energy, even if you're a smaller dog, you can overtake a larger dog. Now, physically, can that dog overpower the smaller dog? Absolutely 100%, right? But we're not, the dog's not aware of physically how powerful they are. They're aware of energy and confidence, and that's what I'm trying to stress, right? So in this case, yes, we have 2 very large pit breed dogs, right? But the moment they saw them charging from across the street is the moment I step in, hey, right? And as the husband, what I would have done is instinctually given my wife the leash and told her, get out of here so that I can body block and then address these dogs. Okay, because remember, there's always going to be one leader. Okay, one leader. It's not like if he takes one dog, unless he takes the wrong dog, but it's very obvious who the leader is, right? It's the one initiating the attack. If he addresses that one, the other one's most likely going to get confused. The other one's most likely going to be like, do I want anything to do with this, right? Do I really want conflict here? Because then you kind of isolate them and they might go to shoot. What I foresee happening is if I deflect the leader, the follower is either going to stand back or try to add some support by like kind of jumping in and out, and or get confused and curious and like wander over to the other dogs. Okay, now is it possible that dog attacks? Yes, but in this case, if we do nothing, the attack happens. So I go in my head, well, if the attack's going to happen, then I might as well do something that may prevent the attack from happening, right? De-escalate it before there's even a problem. So here, the wife,
the woman tried to protect her animals. Her partner
is the one that actually steps in here. Let me go back.
Charged at them, attacking their
right
pets.
there. And you can see there's a little bit of a delay from that charging dog.
Charged at them, attacking
right there. A little bit of a slowdown, right? So for me, and you know, with reading body language, like you kind of go into a zone on how to describe it. Like when working with packs of dogs, you kind of go into a zone where you're just seeing everything happen real time, right? And if anybody who's ever seen like a dog attack or witnessed a dog attack, had a dog attack, like things kind of slow down for a moment, right? And then as your brain's kind of taking in all the information. So right there, you know, as soon as I would have seen those dogs, you know, charging the street, because they're blocked by a fence directly behind them, there would be no time for them to get into that yard. I don't know if that's their own yard, right? That's blocked by cars. Across the street is like a park or something. Like there really is not a lot for them to work with here. So my job as the husband, as the man in this situation, personally, is I need to take charge of these dogs to provide an opportunity for escape for my wife and my son. Okay, and the husband just is standoffish. He's not taking any initiative. He puts it on his wife. Yes, positionally, she's the one that's there, but it doesn't mean you don't move her out the way, give her the dog, and go and tell her to leave, right? And then address the dog, like just go for it, right? Because again, the attack's already going to happen. Now, the other thing is these dogs are focused on the Yorkies. Is the other choice would be drop your leashes, okay? And I know this can sound terrible to people, right? But we have to remember there's a child in this picture here, right? There's a child. So then as a parent, instinct is protect my child at all costs, whether that means I have to sacrifice my life and fight off these two dogs, and or I have to sacrifice my dogs. Okay, it's a very tough decision. I understand that, but you have to think those Yorkies have the opportunity to run away, right? Those are very big dogs. They're not the fastest. They're not the fastest. Those Yorkies most likely would have had a one up on them in terms of speed. Okay, so I would drop the leashes, tell my wife to go, and I address the dogs. Okay, the other thing is if they drop the leashes, those dogs were targeting the Yorkies. They would have focused on the Yorkies. Those Yorkies could hide under the cars right there. Right? Remember, dogs are smart. Dogs are instinctual animals, right? So if those leashes were dropped and those dogs charge and the Yorkies are like, we got to go into flight mode, right? They're going to take off, and chances are if they find a vehicle or find a fence that they can go under, they're going to go under them, and those dogs will have no means of being able to get under that vehicle. They're too big. They're too big, right? So, and again, I understand that I'm watching this outside of the situation, right? But this is stuff that I teach people because it doesn't occur to us to think like, oh yeah, drop the leash, right? Like let your dog defend yourself. In previous dog attack videos that I've gone over, right? There was one where the dog ran like 60 feet plus across a street, across a yard to attack this man's lab as he was taking it out for a walk. And he's holding his lab back, right? And the lab was about a little bit bigger than the pit. I'm like, drop the leash. Let your lab defend itself from the pit, and or let your lab escape the situation, right? Because remember, your dogs will either one fight back and or two run away. But you're here, they're hindering the Yorkies. They're not allowing them that escape mode. They set themselves up for a worse situation at worser. And unfortunately, one of the Yorkies was killed in the attack. Both of these people do lift up their Yorkies, which is another big no-no. It escalates predatory drive. Again, it puts your dog at a disadvantage, but then also you then start to receive the bites because when they're attempting to try to go for your dogs. Okay, so let's continue watching.
The woman tried to protect her animals, her
And it looks like she's tried to step in right there, right? I don't know if there was a physical kick there. If there was a kick, you have to kick with intention. You have to kick with intent to harm the dog. And remember, if you're in this situation, you want to go for below the ribs to the butt, right? That soft stomach area to the side as hard as you can, okay? As hard as you can. Otherwise, you're going directly to the front of their chest, boom, when they're charging you, okay? So as the husband, if I give my wife the dogs and I go run and I come in, hey, right? Again, I'm going to see initially if it's going to deflect the dogs or not. If they keep coming, well, now I'm not going to try it again. I now escalate to I have to do physicality, right? So then I'm looking for getting in front of the dog and giving a direct center kick to the front of their chest as hard as I can, okay? Excuse me, as hard as I can, to see if that impact tells the dog, man, this guy is serious. He's not messing around. He is going to defend his family, right? And if anything, it may de-escalate the situation because touch, as Caesar says, it snaps the brain out of it, right? These dogs are in predatory state. They're in vigilant state, right? So they're so honed in into what they're doing is that when that physical contact comes in, it's like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to have physical confrontation here from the human, right? So that shock to the system gives us another opportunity, right? And it may either shut them down entirely, because again, if you take out the leader, the follower is going to stop as well. If it looks like they're just stunned, I go in again, more physical. I am going to beat you up if you continue to pursue me and my family, right? You want them to switch. You want them to go from feeling like the aggressor to feeling like I'm the one being attacked, and I don't want any problem with this, right? And you might think, well, Jesse, that's a big dog. They got big teeth. Remember, it's all about size. It's not about size. It's about energy, right? It's not about size. It's about energy. It's about how tough you're making yourself to be. There's a video that I've seen. I watch a lot of these videos of a big bear. I can't remember if it was a brown bear or black bear, but it was a big bear looked like it was going to go after a kid. It hadn't started yet, right? And you see the kid on its bike, like, oh, what, like trying to escape. And this guy, and he was a tall guy too, which helped him out, gets out of his truck and lifts his hands up very high. I'm going to cut out here, but he lifts his hands up and he starts kind of bouncing towards the bear, and it deflects the bear. I don't know if there's any shouting because there's no audio with the video, but he just made himself look big and started doing this, and it deflects the bear. It's a bear, right? Like, I'm confident, but I know, logically speaking, I can't overpower a bear, okay? These are just dogs. These are just dogs, right? With dogs, you have a fighting chance. But again, it was just he projected energy, he projected size, well, in this case, made himself look bigger, which helped. And you might go like, well, Jesse, you said size doesn't matter. Bears are not dogs, so I'm not a bear expert, right? But I know that I've not ever had to make myself look bigger as opposed to bigger energy, okay? So going back to the video, maybe I should look into that, right? Because I've also seen videos where there's a video of a guy deflects lions, and he deflects them with toilet paper, and he's just laying on the ground, and he's very relaxed. And it's a different body language than I would think than with a dog. Okay, it's very interesting. So body language across animal species, I'm not 100% on, but I know for dogs, like big energy, loudness, hey, right, will deflect them a lot of the time, especially when they're solo like this, okay? So mom here starts to take charge. The dad, it looks like he's like, oh, my kid, right? And this is a tough situation. This is a tough situation, right? Because you can see where like he's conflicted. And this is why taking that initiative at the very beginning is so important, because that would have put him in a very different position. Okay. Now, if the dogs are very focused on the two dogs, and you give your dogs to your wife and you tell her to run, like indirectly still continuing to make her a target. But now remember, your hands are free. You are free. You're an uninhibited, that you have the ability to go for the leader, right? Whereas here, his wife is now got the two dogs on her, or not on her physically, but they're in her, they're going for her dog. You see her pick her up dog, so she's trying to protect the dogs. Again, this, like, drop the leashes. Drop the leashes, give your dogs a fighting chance to run, or give your dogs the opportunity to fight, and then figure out what to do there, right? In this situation, if I drop my leashes, I'm telling my wife, get our son, get out of here. I'm gonna take care of this, okay? Chances are, if the Yorkies don't have the opportunity to fight, they may be killed. And it sucks to say that, and you might think, well, Jesse, you're a jerk, that's your dogs. I understand that. The child comes first. Okay, the child comes first. Yes, it may appear the child's safe in this moment, but what if it didn't stay like that? Right? What if it didn't stay like that? So now they both leave to attend the dogs, and what happens if those dogs then decide, we're done with this, now we go for the stroller? Right? As opposed to the dogs are focused on the dogs, my wife's already escaping with our son, and I'm there to handle the situation. Okay? And these are very tough decisions, but human life does precede dog life. Okay? And it's, in doing this for so long, it's amazing and just shocking how many times I've seen people put their dogs above their children. Okay, like this is serious. Like most people are like, really? You say? I'm like, yes, yes, I am serious. Okay, so I'm not saying that's what they're doing here. They're just caught off guard, you know, completely understand. But remember, like you have to think as clearly as possible. And it's so much information here, and this is just a short video. But this is why I like reviewing these things. So you see him,
to her aid.
he opens up the flap. I don't know why he did that. Okay, but
Also coming to her aid, residents.
yeah, maybe to see that his child was okay. I don't know why. I think he was just like, just so like did not know what to do. Okay, so the mom goes to pick up, and then he finally steps in. Okay, he finally steps in. He's still holding that leash. Again, let it go, let it go. So if because the other thing is, if this Yorkie isn't being attacked and they're focused on the other Yorkie, that Yorkie has an opportunity to escape now. Okay, and then again, you frees you up to be able to focus on what to do next. Now, as the husband in this situation, the other problem is now he is torn between two choices. He's like, do I have to go? Do I go save my wife, or do I stay watch over my kid? As opposed to again the very initial response of take the dogs, take our son, go, right? And it's just you and the dogs. And now he's conflicted, and he has to leave his child. And technically speaking, the child is more vulnerable to the dog attack than the adults. Okay, a dog attack to a child will be is going to be far more severe than to an adult because they're smaller, their face is lower, right? The dogs have access to the child's face. Like very tough situation. But this is why that initial decision is what pivots how things progress.
Screaming and also rushed to help, but sadly
Where did that dog come from?
one of the small dogs died at the scene. Police were called and a ranger seized one of the pit bulls a short time later in a nearby street, but the other one is still at large. Authorities heard
That's
screaming
crazy.
and also rushed
So it looked like the other
to
dog.
her aid. Tried to protect her animals, her partner also coming to her aid, at them, attacking their pets.
So that initial dog, by the way, to me is the leader. Okay, that's the leader. The one kind of lagging behind, that one for sure, hey, is gonna stand back. That one for sure, right?
At them, attacking their pets. The woman tried to protect her animals, her partner also coming to her aid. Residents heard screaming and
Okay, so let me see if I can track. Sorry, it's very hard to track.
charged at them, attacking their pets. The woman tried to protect her animals, her partner also.
Okay, so the secondary dog, right? You see it come down, lagging behind, kind of turns off and goes to investigate the stroller. Okay, so that dog is currently investigating the stroller.
To her aid, residents heard screaming and all.
So that's crazy because that dog was around the child, the front part of the child, probably was like, oh, what's going on over here, right? Again, that's why when, hey, for sure that second dog is going to stand back, right? But then once the husband starts to notice or like, oh, the dog is attacking my other dog and my wife.
So coming to her
right?
aid, residents heard screaming and
Right there, when she picks the dog up, right, is for a brief second, he leaves his child unattended with the other dog. Okay, thankfully nothing happened. But just, again, one decision leading to like all this commotion, all of this unnecessary stuff, right? Would have been much more controlled had he just taken the initiative and stepped in and deflected the dogs. So
rushed to help, but sadly one of the small dogs.
So it looks like she's able to get her dog.
Sadly, one of the small dogs died at the scene.
The dog doesn't look panicked.
But sadly, one of the small dogs.
Right, her dog's looking like this. It doesn't look panicked. So I don't know if that dog if that
died at the scene. Police were called and arranged
if there was any damage done during the initial attack.
Later in a nearby street, but the other one is still at large. Authorities are warning locals not to approach the dog if they see it. Instead, they should call 000. Police have
I want to slow this down.
The owner of the dogs and council is investigating. The mother and child
All right. So the easiest way to know which approach is going to work, right? Because here, this is all about initiative, because there really was no outs for them. Like, one thing would have been like throw the Yorkies over the other side of the fence and then hope that their flight, like if the dogs came around, right? Because these are all possibilities. I can only give possibilities. Obviously, we only know what actually happened, but I know dog behavior so well, and there's nothing really new with dogs. Like, one day I don't see a dog do something where I'm like, oh, I've never seen that dog do that before. Like it's like there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to dogs. It's not like one day I see a dog and like they're driving a car, like instinctually. Like, I've seen dogs drive cars because it was trained to drive a car, but like the dog didn't one day just like wake up, grab the owner's keys and like open the car door and drive it, right? So this situation, right? Let's look at our possibilities. They both have a leash. Just snatch the leash out of your wife's hand, throw the dogs over the fence, and tell your wife to leave with the kid and handle the dogs, right? That's one possibility. If this was their own personal yard, that becomes a more likely possibility because it's your yard and you have vehicles in there. In that moment, if they were just walking out and then turning around that corner and then those, like, maybe you're not paying attention, like I could see that happening, right? But if that was the case, grab your dogs, throw them into the yard. Even though there's an open fence, they can at least hide underneath the vehicles, right? And then my wife can just focus on her son. The targets very clearly were the Yorkies. So chances are, wife's leaving the situation, those two dogs are now looking and investigating, trying to find those two Yorkies, right? At that point, do you need to even do anything? Probably not, right? If it's like, well, I don't want to get hurt, right? If I don't want to start something and the dogs attack me, you just let it be. Call 000, whatever it is in Australia, and wait for the cops come. If those Yorkies are smart, which instinctually dogs are pretty good about this kind of stuff, they would most likely stay in hiding. Otherwise, you could try to deflect, right? As they're sniffing. Is there a possibility that you get redirect? Possibly, and if you've resolved the situation of my child is safe and my dogs are safe in the sense that they're hiding underneath the vehicle, then is there really any need to do anything? No. Okay. Now, the other situation is give the two Yorkies to my wife, tell her to run, right? Or tell her to start, walking away. And I handle the dogs. I am very confident in the big clap, shout, stop would have done something here had it been done at this moment, right? By the time he handed his wife the leash and stepped in to stomp, that dog probably would have been about 8 to 10 feet. So because we're looking at a 15 to 20 foot distance, and dogs cover a lot of distance in a short period of time, right? So I would say they will probably cover another 5 feet in the time that it takes me to hand the leash, because I'm handing and I'm stepping in, I'm shouting at that moment, kind of like all simultaneously, right? And you will see if it's going to have an impact, because you'll see the dogs kind of, they get caught off guard, right? And if I see them get caught off guard, I step in again. Hey, boom, right? Projecting that energy. And then you see them now you have the upper hand, and now they don't want a problem with you, okay? Everybody's safe. Everybody's safe. If I do the big, loud stomp clap, and I don't see any slowdown, any hesitation, then I get ready to step in, boom, very firm kick to the front of that chest, okay? And what the second dog for sure would be holding back with the loud stamper and stomp, because we see him later on be kind of pushed back, or he's like kind of lagging so far behind. And the other dog, which also makes me confident that this would work, is there is a slowdown before the commitment. The dog's kind of okay, and then the dog actually commits to the decision. Okay,
charged at them,
right there.
attacking their pets.
There's a slowdown. right? So that would be if I have a delayed response, right? If like, even if the guy was slow at doing this stuff, if he was able to step in during that slowdown, that's another point where I go, chances are he would have stopped this whole situation. Okay. And just
Trying to
remembering,
protect her animals, her partner also coming to her aid. Residents heard screaming and
yeah, okay. And he tries to protect her with his body against the holding that leash. Drop that leash, right? Other thing that you can do is, again, if this is already happening, is taking the leash off your Yorkie, like taking that extra fraction of a second to like take the leash off and then try to noose the leader, right? Try to noose the one that is leading the attack. Depending on how things are, how people move, if I got the other dog in that kind of choke, then trying to deflect the other dog with kicking, which may work because you got the leader under control at that point. So again, when you control the leader, when you de-escalate the leader, the energy, the morale of the pack drops dramatically. Okay, I did a number in my USPS dog attack video. There's 2 videos of one of a young lady and one of a mail carrier in India being attacked by off-leash dogs. And both packs of off-leash dogs are deflected by people, just moving in and shouting and all that stuff, right? Is once you address the leader, the pack loses morale. It's the same thing with humans. If you got a group of kids and one of them's a leader and you take down the leader, there might be a secondary leader, right? But like the morale drops dramatically. Same thing here. So once you know and understand this, always targeting who's heading the charge. It's usually who's the biggest energy, who's heading the charge, who's the one that's committing the most, right? Usually gives it away. The second dog very obviously was not the leader. Hanging back about 5 to 8 feet, deflects and doesn't even go towards the dogs, right? That the attacking dog is, goes and investigates by the kid. I'm not sure if there was grass or something, right? So it gets distracted. So all that tells me that that dog's not the leader, the other dog is, okay? So very tough decisions in this kind of situation. But remember, guys, your kids come first. Men, if you're watching this, it is our job to protect our families. It is our job to protect our wives and our children. And this means possibly sacrificing your own life to do that. This is something that I'm very much well aware of. And the reason why I have that is, and I'm okay with it, and the reason why I have that is if I'm not okay with it, that means I'm going to hesitate, right? If I'm in a moment where I have to protect my wife and my son, and I hesitate because I'm like, I might die, right? They might be seriously harmed or they may die. So I have to be okay with that. I have to sacrifice myself because it means I will act with no hesitation. I will act with no hesitation, okay? So I know it sounds silly, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Put yourself in these kinds of situations in your head. As a human, you have your imagination. Use it to your advantage, right? When you're walking with your dog, oh, there's a dog behind a fence over there. What would I do if that dog got off leash? What are my outs? What can I do to protect my dog? What can I do to protect myself, right? Like, just, it sounds odd to think like that, but if the off-leash dogs are a possibility anywhere, is just think about it, and it at least gives you an idea of what to do in a situation like this. I'm Jesse with Kidnap Perspective. Thank you for watching.